We're just
Sorry, it was
Yeah,
like,
discussing
I'm so,
everything.
I just do not want to start talking with hiring managers going, oh, duh, I'm not. So I find myself,
mm-hmm.
what I did was I just sent them, because I had some that had one. I took those people and I sent them, I dropped down the folder to show all the candidates and show them the status of the ones that said manager review and sent that to them. I did get a response from one person saying, oh, we're not going to move forward. So he said he's going to go in and release those candidates. But I was thinking maybe that was something I asked him, is that something I should be doing? Like, do you want help on that? But a lot of them are just showing manager review. So I'm like, okay, now what? What are they supposed to do?
Okay, so Tish,
Okay.
this is Kamisha. Um, Whenever you get up or whoever's getting up, if you can start like all the way at you look at a rec. You look at
Okay.
the rec and you look in there and you see people are, whatever status, if they're applied, what we do, if they're in past assessment, what we do, if they are in recruiter review, what we do, if they're in manager review, what we do. Um, and then so on and so forth. And I know, I guess it was Tracy was saying she's hearing about she's dealt with these compensation. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but I guess we need to go all the way there. Um, if we could do that, I think we would all get a better understanding from beginning to end on at least some steps we can take after this call and tomorrow until we get more clarification,
Yeah, I would
Okay.
like to
Friday.
step
That would
back
be really
in.
helpful. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for
Can you
doing
guys
this,
all see my
Tish.
screen?
Oh, no
Yes.
problem. Okay, so Tish, are you with Sprint or are you with People Scout?
I am with People Scout now. I was
Okay.
with Sprint, so I transferred over.
Oh, perfect. So you're like a superstar on the team.
I don't know about that. I will help as much as I can. So if you can see my brass ring, I'll kind of walk you through how I view Rex. Um, I know most of you are probably going through Rex, view all my Rex so you can see all stages. I don't find that that's helpful for me in working with hiring managers because I would constantly have to search through this folder for a particular requisition number. So what I utilize is the search function. And if you can't see it on your brass ring in this area, then if you hit search, it disappears and then it reappears, it will stay there until you actually remove it from this corner.
Tish, how do we get back to that home page?
Let's see. You should be able to click home. So this is where you are. Should be. You should, I don't know how many squares everyone has, depending on your settings and how you've set that up. But this is the brass ring homepage. And then you just add your search here. So let me pull up actually one of my recs because I think I had someone else's rec pulled up. Let me grab one really quick. Oh, you know what? So when you enter your rec number, you can use BR. You don't have to use it. Either way, brass ring is going to recognize the actual number itself. So here I can see my requisition folder. And for those of you who are posting or reposting requisitions, how you do that is through this pin cushion here. So for anyone that's unsure, this is the posting. If it's orange, it's posted. If it's a white pin cushion, it is unposted. So when I open my requisition folder, I can see, okay, obviously, this does not have any candidates. We have one that failed and one moved to company not interested. But let me move to a folder that I have access to. And let me just find some statuses. So for example, well, I don't have any there either. Here we go. Okay, so in your rec, you may see candidates who are in this status. This is the applied status. This person has been sitting here since July 24th. This tells me that this candidate has not taken the assessment, or they've applied to multiple requisitions and they did not click the link to upload the score from a previous assessment. provided is the same job code, because a lot of the job codes have different assessments. Retail consultants have one assessment, store managers have its own assessment. You can find out how many recs someone applied to by clicking the HR status icon. It looks like a stop sign with an I in it. This tells me how many times this person has applied and what positions they've actually applied for.
Okay, Tish,
So,
question real quick.
sure.
So the assessment does get automatically sent, and so if they're in applied, it's been sent to them, and they
Yeah,
either have not done it or they've done it on another rec, and they didn't click it where it can come on this particular rec or whatever. Right.
exactly.
Okay.
So for this candidate, and I can see him in here twice. So if I open either his name or his form, let's take a look at him. I can look through here and I can see, well, let me do this. I will filter. If you use your filter and you click on assessments, I just want to see his assessments. So I can see that he applied to 4 different manager recs. That means this requisition, 218084 and 218085, they have the same assessment. They should. Well, this one won't because it was an April requisition. Sprint changed platforms midway through the beginning of the year. So there's different assessments for the manager position. But what has happened is that he applied in April. This was on a particular platform, and it was called Previsor. This store manager requisition is on a platform called KRB, which is the CAS assessment. So that is why his score is not moved over. That's why he's still in that applied status. So he is not doing something on his end that where he is taking, either needing to retake this particular assessment, the store management _ 2016 assessment, or he didn't click the link so that it will drive the score. Assessments
Okay.
have to be taken within 72 hours.
Oh,
After
okay.
72 hours, it's done. That means they're not moving forward at this point.
Okay, so after 72 hours, can we just go ahead and decline them from the rec or what?
Yeah, what happens is they should, here's how the statuses align. And basically their status should be candidate withdrew. And you should hit up, you know what, let me do this through the rec.
Tish,
not by the
are we
candidate.
supposed to be looking to see if they completed the assessment on other recs?
I do.
And how did
and
you
I
you go through
did.
that? Or
No, because I'm just in the applied status, I'm not in the actual requisition folder. I want to get to where I can actually pull the rec so you can see everything, because being in this status is not going to be as helpful as it needs to be. Okay, so I'm going to look at, here's a clean rec. So we have 12 candidates. Rec is no longer posted. We have this person who's still unapplied. He's been there more than 72 hours. He's been there more than 72 hours, more than 72 hours. If you are updating recs to keep your recs clean as you're reviewing them, you could click on everyone who is in that status and update their status. But before I do that, I'm going to make sure that each one of these individuals did not by chance take an assessment anywhere else. And like for this person example, I am not seeing it in there because it would show either in their forms or under their name, under a list. So it would show in their action log.
and it would say assessment?
Yep, and see here, it was sent to him. It was sent to him on July 26th, and after that day, he has not completed it. So he didn't apply anywhere else, and he didn't complete the assessment for this requisition. So for him, I can safely say it is okay for me to update him
Right.
to candidate withdrew. I don't know if that's what my role is. I think it's okay to do that.
Join the
But
crowd.
yeah, but this is a way for me to show if that is what we are supposed to be doing, or for whichever group is updating those, this is how you would do it. You would change it to candidate withdrew. No, the candidate did not apply for this position, and they failed to complete the assessment. And then
Does
you
the
send it.
assessment send a reminder, or is it just one email it sends out? And how do
It's
we
just
know they
one email.
received it?
It's just one email, and in under their name in the action log, it states that what date and what time it was sent.
Have you
So
had an
it's
issue where a
clear.
candidate states they never received the assessment? Or
Yeah, we had that question all the time, and there is the way for Sprint's tech team to confirm that. So if they've ever had issues with accessing the assessment because they are sent a username and a password to access the link, the tech team can go in to see if that person truly accessed that site. And same for this guy. And it's the same with this guy. So these were all sent around the 31st. He hasn't done anything with it.
Tish, if they completed assessment on another requisition, how long is that good for?
It's good. I'm trying to think of the best way to answer that question.
Like, does it have an expiration, like after 90 days, they have to retake it, or is it?
It doesn't expire.
Okay.
The only thing with that is it can't be like he's in a retail supervisor rec. If he came back and applied for a store manager position, he would have to take that assessment again because it's a different position and it's a different assessment. So the assessments are different between the different job codes, but within the same job family, if he applied to multiple stores under the same job family, so retail supervisor store in location 1 or retail supervisor position in location 3, they all have the same assessment. So when the candidate applies to each different requisition with that same title, they still have to click the link that they are sent. You have to complete it in one of the requisitions. If you then go in and apply to a second location for that same job code, you're going to be sent the link again. You still have to click on the link so that the score from the first rec in that job family can carry over to the second requisition, if that makes sense.
And is that required for internals too? Do they have to do the assessments?
Internals are not required to take the assessment.
Okay.
If a candidate fails an assessment, like for example, my candidate here on line 7, they have to wait 6 months before they can retake the assessment within this job family. Because if they decide to apply again for this job family in a different location, the system is going to read that they've taken that assessment. There have been times where candidates have gotten around that by entering other email addresses. But when you're checking your candidates, they're going to move to a status of applied is usually where they're going to sit. And that's kind of where you're checking to make sure that that candidate has completed everything. They've completed their assessment. Maybe the score is not driving to the right status, or they truly haven't taken it, or maybe they failed in another requisition and they need to be moved to a fail status. And the system's just not moving them. But that doesn't happen that often.
While we're here, can you go ahead and show us how you got that KRB band right there? I didn't see it on the
Sure,
slide.
right there. Okay, so if you're in your requisition, just like I have it here, you actually have to open the requisition and you go into Edit Output Fields. You find it under the available values, and it's going to have, here, let me put it back. Let me take it away, and I'll put it back. It's going to be, is that it? CAS reporting ban. And then you just move it over, and then you hit save. And there it is.
Cool.
I think I had a different one over there earlier because the colors
Yeah, 'cause
actually
that's my
appeared.
color. Yeah.
Yeah. That's not it. You can actually see the percentiles, but you can go in your output fields and kind of play to see how you want your screens to look.
Tish, it's listed under just
There it is.
KRB band. Yeah.
There it is. Thank you. There we go. And then if you wanted to move these around, you could do that by dragging and dropping and just moving your fields around that way.
Right.
Like, I'm usually not concerned with that. Or viewed. But that's just how I set mine up. So I kind of like to see the KRB band first before I start messing with statuses.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
All right. So now, if they're in past assessment, right? Because that's the next step after
That's the
applied,
next
right?
one. Yep. So
Okay.
let me go in there and find a few requisitions. Okay, so past assessment will always have those candidates who are in the yellow zone. So the only way you know if you can move forward with those is if you have approval for your particular market to be able to move forward to present these candidates to the manager folder. So for this person, how you would know is that within your requisition, there should be a note. So Annette Jacobs is my area regional director for the market that I'm currently supporting or interim supporting in case that changes. She gave blanket approval to receive all yellow zone candidates to be presented to her manager folders, but this expired on July 31st, which means that as of today, anyone sitting in that yellow zone status, I should not be moving forward with unless I've missed an email and I don't have access to my Sprint emails right now, but unless she's given direction to extend that out, and if she has, then I would go back and add that to the requisition note so that while working these requisitions, then anyone would know this market is good to move forward with yellow candidates.
Okay. And it's just those particular people, right? Because there could just as well be people in green or blue, right?
No. The
Okay. So
only
it's all.
time, yeah, the only time green and blue will generally show in past assessment is if they submitted an application that day and the system hasn't updated through the nightly process to automatically move them through the automation system to manager review. But blue and green is an automated setup to where when they pass green with green or blue score, they're going to automatically move to the manager
Oh.
review folder.
Okay. Okay.
It's
Cool.
just that, yeah, brass ring is a timing ATS. So if you apply at 8 o'clock in the morning, if you look at it at 9, they may not be out of this status yet because brass ring may not have had time to adjust those accordingly.
Right. So that's cool. So if we look at it and we see people in past assessment, that's because they're sitting on yellow somewhere.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Gotcha.
Any more questions on that one? Very good to me.
Yeah. Okay. So just to verify, you said that if they are yellow, the only way that we can move forward is if we look at the rec for an approval note, right?
Right. And
Okay.
if there's not one there, that generally means that that market does not accept yellow. But there on the peer-to-peer market that was sent out by April, on your tab for the market that you're currently supporting, it should have additional notes there from Sprint saying whether or not that particular market is going to go ahead and accept. I would, after all of your manager introductions, I would, for me personally, is what I plan on doing is seeking that information from those managers. If they're not currently, if there's not a note indicated on that rec, and if the peer to market had an expiration, I plan on reaching out, especially depending on the number of candidates that are, in pipeline. If it's a low number, that's something that you want to review with, your areas.
Got it. Thank you.
Awesome.
And then we have recruiter review. I only have one. This is great. You will see internals, and some of you may see externals. I can't remember if they flipped that switch to remove those or not. I know that's
There's a
something
lot of
that
externals.
there's a lot of externals. Okay, so does someone have a rec number that they can throw at me where you have externals in there? And then I'll share it on the screen.
What did you do to select recruiter review? Is that something in the drop downs?
Yes, recruiter review is in the drop down. Like you can update them from the folder. I only have one, and so an internal example may not really reflect what you need for the external candidates. So,
I have a
yeah.
rec number for external.
Okay.
It's 225310.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes, you have quite a few. So this one here is a yellow zone candidate. The reason why it's not highlighted is more than likely they've taken this assessment on the previsor side and the score picked up. So if I look at this, see how this says pass high, 91% percentile? That is a different indication of what this KRB band is showing. So somewhere in here, his files are where he's taken this assessment multiple times, and that is because he's taken the assessment or he has applied to multiple requisitions. Sorry. So this one is 2253. And I'm not seeing that assessment in here. So that means this was obviously taken on a different platform. So here's all the requisitions that he's actually applied for. The supervisor positions, he's here in manager review as if he's passed, but he has a low KRB band. That may be one to look at separately because it should be showing pass here and it's not. But what you would normally do with these is when they're in manager review, what you want to check to see is if, as an external, that they have their resumes attached. And you can do that by going into the candidate's name. This person does not have a resume. Here loaded. So how the manager could review this person, it shouldn't happen, but because they scored in the blue, that's why they were pushed through, because the system does not recognize if a candidate has uploaded a resume or not.
Where do you see that it's not there?
Right here under the resume tab.
Okay.
Sometimes, usually what happens is when a candidate submits to the Sprint external site and they're receiving the assessments, the system is asking them to upload their resume. And there's a box on the site that says, do not check this box to use as your profile. And more than likely what happens is that candidates will click that box to try to insert their profile. And it does. It literally inserts their profile, their name, their address, their phone number, and their email address. It does not upload a resume. So when that happens, this is really considered an incomplete submission.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are hidden And sometimes if you click generate PDF, you may actually see the resume. So it is always a good practice to check. Um, oh, my system is stuck. I apologize. But what a hiring manager should do, this candidate has already been presented because they've passed the assessment. The manager should not be interviewing these individuals without resumes. They should be selecting them as incomplete.
I guess I have a question because the district manager who I've been speaking to, he wants to move forward with the Aguilera individual. And he's gonna, like, I'm in the process of communicating with him that he needs to change the status over to all the other ones that they're not interested in, so he can start moving forward with compensation and onboarding. The other one, I have a question because it had the pass low. And how do you document this information? Do we have any form to where we can document all our actions?
When you say document, you mean
Yeah.
like
Like if we do something, like is there anything like in the system where you can like document once you actually done, or like take notes on what's going on, like what's the process, like what I communicated to this guy and the next step is this, and like is there
there is
anything in
not in Brass Ring. The only thing, and I think my screen stopped sharing because I'm starting to have issues. But there's not in Brass Ring directly.
Okay.
There is a note section in Brass Ring, but that's generally for, like, for example, I don't know if you can see my screen again, but that's generally for if maybe someone
It's
didn't have
loading.
drug and background.
There
It's
we
loading.
go.
Okay.
Yep, I can see it.
So the notes are usually added in this screen, but it's generally not for a step-by-step process of what you're doing with the candidate and the hiring manager. It's more so used if this candidate is a rehire, their rehire information is going to be there. If they fail their drug and background, that information is going to be contained in the notes.
Okay.
That's generally what that note section is for, but otherwise just a log of what's going on with your candidates in your file. There's not a place in Brass Ring to store that.
Okay.
You can make what I did is I made my own Excel tracker to keep my own notes on my recs and candidates to kind of refer to.
Yeah, like kind of here's an example, of what that note section would look like, of what would be in there. So you have like rehire information, if there's something special from the hiring manager, like if it's an internal candidate and they haven't been in their job for 6 months for a retail position and a manager wants to override and move them forward, that would be where you would add that exception so that in the future someone else can see, well, why did we move someone forward who hasn't been tenured in their position?
So Tish, let's go back real quick because we were trying to look at somebody in recruiter review. That rec number she gave you was external and manager review. So when they're in recruiter review, I know y'all were saying earlier you either cannot move them or what's the case? What do we need to do in that status? Just so we know for if we have candidates that are in recruiter review.
You did say that. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Does anyone have a rec number with recruiter reviews? Because mine is internal, and it's probably not going to work the same. I can pull it up. Let's do this. So here's one of mine. I have two, but it's an internal candidate. So really what needs to happen is I need to look at this candidate or whoever is looking at recs. But the candidate needs to be looked at to make sure, one, they have their resume and they meet the criteria of an internal candidate. Meaning for retail, you have to be in your position 6 months unless you've received exception from your district manager and your ARD to be able to move forward. So I can see that he's been in his position since January 2015. So he's good. The next thing that I want to look at is to make sure they're not on any type of write-up. He didn't update his resume because he was hired on January, but he is still past the 6 months, so we're still good. The other thing I want to look at is his GQ job, or we just call it the GQ. And I'm looking to see if he's been in his current position. It says 1 year, but there's exceptions to different business units. So with retail, again, it's 6 months. And then, but the main thing I want to look for is to make sure he's not on any type of corrective action. If this is marked yes, generally what happens is that I would, or another recruiter would copy these notes and add it to that person's file right here. And then that person's status would be updated to, I don't have permission to undo statuses, so I don't want to change his status yet, but it's either going to be company not interested or no longer considered. We should have a printout to say what happens when you move these candidates between these statuses. I believe it's no longer considered, and then after that, there's going to be another screen that appears this way where I can select not eligible due to job performance because they're on a written warning, if that were the case for this particular candidate. If this person was an external, you want to make sure that they have their resume and that they passed their assessment. And I don't have a way to show you on this one because he's an internal and the assessment's not required.
Right. So does every candidate, will they end up in recruiter review or not?
Yes.
Okay, so that is a status that we need to look at to actually move them to something.
Yes.
Okay. And we're at that point making sure that the resume is there, that they passed the assessment or whatever, and then we can move them then to whatever that takes them to manager review.
Correct.
Okay.
Tish, do you have any documents on the old process that you follow?
I did. Most of it is stored on a hard drive. I'm sure I can get some of that for you. But that process is going to be changing soon. As far as like what I've covered with the requisition piece, I don't have anything documented on that. Mostly everything that I have documented is really like the offer letter process, like templates, basically the templates that I use for sending hire managers the conditional offers.
That too. Okay. I mean, we're still going to need those kind of templates, right? Even do we don't have a template for like the intake call, what to discuss and go over.
Okay.
If you have any of those, it'd be great.
Okay. I will see what I can put together, and then of course I'll send it to April to make sure that we're all good.
Of course.
And that nothing has changed or updated on that before I shoot that out. But
all right. So then manager review, that means the manager's gonna look at it and decide if they want to interview them.
Yep, that's all the manager.
Okay.
I have 85 sitting in there. That means no one's moved on this since the beginning of August in some of these. And I see some yellows in there, but yeah, that just means that they're sitting there waiting for the manager to do something with.
Okay, are y'all's managers good at updating Brass Ring, or do they just make their own interview and maybe they didn't update it?
Depends on the market. I mean, the market that I supported, my managers were really good about updating that.
Okay.
They weren't always the swiftest in doing it at times,
Right.
but understood they had a lot on their plates.
Right.
So, with that, like this person's been sitting here since August. 9 times out of 10, they have not scheduled their interviews. And I believe in some of the markets, it is required to have 2 level of interviews. In most markets, they're going to have the store manager and the DM to be included, especially for like the retail sales supervisor positions. In the store manager positions, there's usually 2 people interviewing a candidate for those positions. But what should happen is what the manager should be doing is completing what's called an interview rating sheet. A lot of times, for whatever reason, they may look over the interview rating sheet when they click interview complete. So like for this candidate, the manager would select interview complete. They would click update next and another window would pop up. And when that window pops up, they select, yes, I've interviewed, and yes, I'm going to complete an interview rating sheet. And as soon as they update that status, they will receive, and I'm not sure why this keeps doing this. Let me try it on a different candidate.
Do they always have that interview rating sheet, or have you found sometimes they ask you for a blank one?
Sometimes they will ask for it. It automatically is sent to them when they move them to that interview complete status. But if by chance they do not, there should be, or there was, a drop down menu here for forms, and you can click interview rating sheet, and it can be e-linked to them. And it is emailed directly from BrassRing to the hiring manager. And you would just insert the hiring manager's name into the appropriate fields, and the form is emailed to them to complete.
Yeah, I think I see that. I think on add form, it has the different forms.
Yeah. Looks like I'm having issues, but yeah, there's a drop-down menu here in select forms if you guys are in a requisition. Yeah, it's just not coming up for me, but it would be in this pull-down menu here. If you add the form, it's going to add it under your name. So you want to send the form to the hiring manager. And I'm trying to think if there's any. Okay, so here's someone in interview complete. It'll probably be easier just to go through all the statuses. So these are everyone that in each of these requisitions that managers have interviewed. Here's the interview rating sheet. And this is what it looks like. And it's completed by that hiring manager. So if they were to move forward, then what this manager would do was click select for hire. And when a manager chooses select for hire for a candidate, the formal Sprint application is automatically emailed to that candidate to complete. There is not a time frame for them to complete the application, so it doesn't expire at any particular time. But when a manager is not understanding why a candidate has not been pushed through the background process, it is because that application is either not completed or the FCRA acknowledgement is not completed. Something is happening within that form that is not going to allow that candidate to be pushed to the background process.
Oh, okay. I got one of those, and that's what I indicated to him that I don't see the background, because aren't we supposed to review that first and then start talking about the salary information?
There should be a
candidate, or is that something we do to let them know that they need to complete that? He was sort of in a rush to get that done, to get the offer.
What the stages should be is interview complete, select for hire, comp analysis performed, and then once that's performed and approved by all the hiring managers and the candidate has agreed to the conditional offer, then from that point they're pushed to drug and background.
Is that a step phase? The comp information?
For the old process, yes.
Oh, okay. So that's what he's waiting for.
It's going to be in the new process too, because I just asked April that earlier.
So it's going to remain the same. Okay.
That's what I asked her, and she said yes.
Yeah. So when they're pushed to drug and okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. So we are selecting them for hire and sending them the application before we've made a verbal offer to them.
The hiring manager sends the candidate to the select for hire status.
Okay.
That sends the formal Sprint application. Right. The formal Sprint application theoretically should be completed by the candidate before the conditional offer is sent to the hiring manager to complete. Okay. However, in some cases, that has all happened at the same time. So
is that form sent for internals and externals?
No,
Just
it is only
external.
sent for externals. Yes.
So once it
Okay.
moves to select for hire status, is there something we need to check before moving forward with the comp analysis?
You would want to make sure that they have their resume attached because you wouldn't want to get through all of the process with the backgrounds and there
Mm-hmm.
not be a resume.
So even though we can start talking about the comp without that application being done, because we
Right.
don't know that the checklist.
Because that more than likely the hiring manager is going to push their candidate to get the application completed. When they come in for their interviews, the hiring manager has already gone over these steps with the candidates. They're going to tell them, be on the lookout for the application, be on the lookout for your drug and background information. They go over all of that with their candidates generally
Wow.
during the interview process. Since the interview process is going to change sort of it on the new side. I mean, I would venture to say that the hiring manager is still going to speak with them verbally, like via phone, but they're still going to communicate with them what to be on the lookout for. So while a
Okay.
candidate may be in select for hire and you're waiting for that candidate to complete the formal Sprint application, the comp analysis could still be performed and sent to the hiring manager because the conditional offer is just that. It is just conditional. It is conditioned based on someone clearing pre-employment drug and background for Sprint.
So, Tish, a question. When a manager makes, let's say, a verbal conditional offer, are they like offering them a salary at that point, or is it just, hey, we'd like to hire you based on, the contingent on your drug and background, and then at a later date discuss salary, or is salary right then and there with the offer?
Salary is there.
Okay, because I had a manager ask me about that, and he extended an offer, but he didn't do the salary, so I was a little bit confused.
Unless something is changing, but under any of these legacy recs, how it was being handled previously is that that conditional offer came with a salary amount.
Okay, so then that is my question because that means that they would have already verbalized an amount before it gets to us. So that's why I'm getting confused as to why we're doing so much with compensation if they're the ones who are saying it.
Right. So, because really, they already know the salary, so we put.
Right. They most of the market, most hiring managers, they already know what that salary amount range is.
Okay.
That verbal is just in a template for them to
Mhm.
be able to see everything
Well,
or for them to
before the verbal, they're asking me for the salary range.
right. Some of them will. It just
Okay.
really depends on your market.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Some of them are already up to speed and they know exactly where they if you're coming in at 90% for a national standard market for a retail consultant, they already know that offer is going to be at $10.30. They already know
Okay.
because they've done it for so long with
Yeah.
that salary rate. If you're in a premium market and you're an RC, they know that dollar rate is going to be 12.10 that you're going to offer.
So Tish, do you talk to them and tell them it should be 1210, or do you send them the comp, the CAT spreadsheet, like just for that
I
position?
I used a different template, and it's the same template that I use to send to my RA, which is a recruiting assistant on Sprint side, to write the physical offer letter should the background clear. So I communicated mine through email. Occasionally, depending on, which hiring manager was, whether they talked verbal to me or communicated through email, either way, they still received my email. It was still documented. This is what we discussed. This is the salary. This is your verbal offer. Does the candidate accept or not? And before I would initiate a candidate through the background process, they would have to let me know that that candidate accepted the verbal conditional offer before I would push them through the drug and background, because there are times that maybe a candidate doesn't accept. They may reject the offer.
So, okay, so we're at the selected for hire stage, and let's say they've already made the verbal offer. They know, they already know what they're going to offer the candidate. So at this point, do I change the status to extend verbal offer in the system, or what do I do system related?
Yes. I hesitate on that only because with the old process, we were using this status to extend the verbal offer.
Yeah, but I think aren't we sticking with the old process right now in these requisitions?
For right now, yeah. And this
Can you walk us through what you would do with a candidate that's been like a finalist selected or select a hire?
Yeah, so I have one on my screen.
Are those two different statuses to finalist selected?
They were at one point. Finalist selected was from our legacy recs. It was a status that was changed about a month ago. It just moved from finalist selected to select for hire. So it really means the same thing, but they felt like the wording of select for hire was easier for a manager to connect with versus finalist selected.
Oh, because I'm getting emails saying finalist selected.
Yes, so they're still under the old verbiage, but they haven't switched over to the new term of select for hire. So, but it does mean the same thing. That is the finalist that they have chosen. What was happening, and I'll just give you a quick background on that. The reason why they switched over from finalist selected to select for hire is because managers were interpreting finalist selected to meaning, oh, this is one of my finalists. I'm still interviewing, so I'm not sure exactly who I'm going with. And they were just placing multiple candidates in that status. And what was happening, that status was driving the formal sprint application out to these individuals, and people were completing those. So they changed it to select for hire so that it would make more sense. This is the person that I want to actually hire.
So I want to be clear here. So we actually go in and hit select for hire, or does the hiring manager go in and select for hire?
In the old process, it was the hiring manager.
Yes, because I had the same question because I received the email response from April, and she was saying that the actual hiring manager, DM, or whoever you were speaking to, the manager, actually changes the status.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, and then you'll get an email notification stating it's changed.
The email notification should come to you from Brass Ring. It's not to say that you can't change it. I just tried to stay clear of that because I wanted the manager to really be involved in knowing that they were selecting this person for the hiring process. And I wanted those notifications from Brass Ring.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
I mean, I will, for my former market, I have had to help some managers. Maybe they didn't have access to their laptop that day or Brass Ring, and they were having issues. So in order for me to cover myself, I would say send me an email. If this is the person that you want to move forward with, send me an email stating that you want to move forward as a select for hire for this candidate, and I will place them in that status for them. So that, there were some exceptions that I would make for my hiring managers, but I made sure I had that backup to go along why I was actually changing that in the system. Because anytime you change it, Brass Ring is showing who is updating these statuses.
That's a good best practice. Thank you.
Yep.
So you did say with some exception, you can go ahead and if they verbally accepted, I don't have the application, but I have the resume, move to the next step after selecting.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Based on what the hiring manager says, he seemed like he really wants this person out who hasn't completed an application. So are you saying with some exception we can go ahead and do that? Just as long as we have the resume and the offer details from the hiring manager.
No, they cannot move to background without that application. They could have the conditional offer via email. It could be verbally accepted. That candidate cannot, the system will not allow you to push a candidate to drug and background without that application and that FCR agreement on file.
Okay, so that makes sense. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Okay, great. Because I got someone that he was calling me just now, so I know that's what the call.
Yeah, I mean, you can send the conditional offer. That's why I said sometimes it happens simultaneously. You can send a conditional offer via email while they're in the select for hire status, but nothing's going to happen after this status until that application is loaded. Like, for example, I have this candidate here in Select for Hire. I don't know what's going on with them right now, but they have completed their Sprint application, and their interview rating sheet is there. Their FCRA acknowledgement is there, and their assessment is there. If we have a conditional offer and it's been accepted and we have approval by the hiring manager and the DM to move forward, then the next step for this candidate would be extend verbal offer and then start the background process. And unfortunately, I don't have a candidate yet for me that, and I don't know if that's my role yet, to move them through those next steps. So I can't show you.
Tish, like I have a few of these that have been moved to Select for Hire. So what am I looking for before moving to the next step with them?
So for your externals, and you can still see my screen, right?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So you're looking for this Sprint application. This is the formal Sprint application. You're looking for the interview rating sheet here. You're also looking for the FCRA acknowledgement. And those are the three main components. I mean, obviously the assessment's going to be there, but
if any of those are missing, do we'd reach out to the candidate or the hiring manager?
I did both. I reached out to the hiring manager, letting them know we are not able to move forward with the background process because your candidate is missing X, Y, and Z. And then an email is sent to the candidate. And for those who are doing that portion of it, how you would do that is you would click on the candidate's name. You would go into Actions, Send Candidate Communication, and there's a drop-down menu here to send any form that is missing. So whether that's the FCRA request to the applicant or it's the actual formal Sprint application. They've added more forms in here. So
what is the FCRA?
The FCRA is an acknowledgement that you understand that Sprint is going to perform a background check.
Okay.
And I can tell you what that looks like.
We need a checklist for this.
Yes, can you send us the email with all the things that need to be in there?
I can do that.
Team manager.
Oh my gosh. No, this is what the FCRA disclosure looks like. So they understand that they're going to do kind of like what we did when we came on board. That's really what it is, and they're going to enter their name there.
And
that's
that makes total sense because, in background screening, before you're able to actually screen the individual, they have to give us consent to actually do it. So that's one of the reasons why they need the actual application with the FCRA attached to it. That makes sense.
My question is, during training, we heard so much about Sprint only doing verbal offers. So after you do Select for Hire, and you said the hiring manager is supposed to send out the verbal offer, but is there something we're supposed to be sending, or do we get confirmation back from them and then just move them forward?
The verbal offer is really like an email template. I mean, they extend verbally. They communicate with their candidate what that salary range looks like for that particular position, store location, and so forth. The salary template that was being used, and that will be used for these old requisitions, and then some in the new process, but that is sent to them as a measure, as a way to really track what they're actually offering the candidate.
So do we send those, or is that something the hiring manager sends?
You or whomever would be doing that salary would send to the hiring manager to review to make sure that looks good. And let me see if I can find a template. And it may make more sense. Where's April? Okay, so here's April's emails. Okay, so here's the template. This is what is sent. This is a conditional offer, and this is what is sent to the hiring manager. It has all of the rec information, and then it has the title of the job, and then it has the pay. It has the commission. It has whether or not they're exempt, if there's a reload package, if there's a sign-on bonus. It has all of this information in that template.
So is the hiring manager filling that out, or are we pre-filling any of that out?
That is pre-filled by recruiting
Oh boy, it's a lot
to
of
send to the
information.
hiring manager. Right. And the template used to be a lot shorter. But because there are some changes being made to the way Sprint's handling the offer process, that's why we're seeing more to the template. And
So is
when
this for the official written offer or the verbal offer also?
this is just for the verbal.
Oh,
It's just for the conditional offer. And it has all of this verbiage because it tells you, if you need a different salary, you need to send back with the justification. And that was the justification form that April attached to the email. It's a business justification template. So you could, in a sense, copy
Okay, so you said
this.
we're supposed to do this.
Well, I'm not
Or
sure
this is
which role is actually going to be doing this, but for whomever is writing the salary offers, this is what you're going to use. You're going to use the conditional offer template. And if the hiring manager counters the 90% MRP or whatever you suggest, the manager then has to complete this business justification template.
I guess the problem everybody's having is there's so many, the old process, the new process, and it's kind of like we don't know where we fall on that spectrum, but we
Right.
still have hiring managers. Like I have them constantly. I've gotten 3 emails while I've been sitting here. I need you to do this. I need you to do this and do this. And, we're kind of like, well, is this something I'm supposed to do? Or if it is, how do I do it? So that was one of the questions that I just got sent an email about. Getting an offer letter to somebody, but when I went and checked, they were just in select for higher status. So I'm
So
kind of
that's,
like,
yeah, they're waiting on that conditional offer because they're still operating as business as usual. They're not a part of the transformation that has really happened. So they're going to continue to operate as normal. And I think their expectation is, well, whomever this has moved over to, in their minds, they're thinking this person is just going to pick up and continue where the last person left off.
And from my understanding, we will be, when I asked April earlier that we will still be doing this comp analysis, this will be a part of our position, not until the comp and everything's confirmed. Then we send over the offer for the onboarding specialist to do the offer in the system, like the e-offer.
The e-offer. So if I understand you correctly, the onboarding specialists are going to do the physical
e-offer,
the final offer letter. That's after the drug and background is complete.
After we and after we send all this information over, we have to send it over, and we have to obtain the information. They won't be reaching out to the hiring manager and doing this process.
So then, sorry.
But then I'm a little lost on actually filling out and completing this comp analysis and sending it over. Yeah, it's just a lot of information, and then just looking it up in the Excel sheet, and
let me get one up.
I'm very lost.
Okay. And then the hiring managers, they're pretty much going to be contacting us for all of this as client-facing recruiters, right? So when it comes to onboarding, the pre-screen, they're going to pretty much ask us, not everyone on the list.
Here's what I would suggest. For those of us who are going to be doing conditional offers, I would set a template in your signatures. I would go into your Sprint. I would copy this template so that it's always there.
Are we using a different one for internals?
Yes, it's similar, but the information regarding the conditional offer is going to be different. Why does that say internal offer letter requirements in red? Let me undo this. Let me go back to her spreadsheet. So there's the internal. I think they have the same thing twice, and that should be external. because this is a conditional offer and this is in regard to drug and background, whereas to this is all internal here. So this is correct except for this one little line right here.
So we need to make this template ourselves and put it on our desktop pretty much. Just copy
You
and
can
paste.
either put it on your desktop, or if it's easier for you to do in your Sprint email account. I don't have my Sprint email account, but how you would do that is you would go into signatures, add new.
There's a place too that you can do templates in Outlook.
You can do your templates. And then what happens if I go to new, I go to my signatures, there's my external offer, and it's there. And then that way, that way you're not having to look for it on your desktop with every single offer. And you can set one up for internal, you can set one up for external. Anything that you're constantly sending to your hiring manager as a constant communication, I would set it up in my signature. I don't know if we're doing backgrounds, if we're going to be if we're the ones that's being notified if they failed or not, but if that is a part of the process, I would add it as a template in my Outlook. If it's always the same thing every single time going to the hiring managers, I would definitely add that into my Outlook as a template. I would always use a subject line as...
And you fill it out right there in the email to them?
Yep.
Okay.
And then whatever the rec number is, and then whatever the candidate's name is, I can't spell. And then I would always mark it as conditional offer, because that is what this is. And this, I'm letting my hiring managers know that this is what you need to do.
What I do with that is when I create my signature, I put it at the top, just say delete before send. So that way you can just cut and paste it in subject without having to keep typing it in each time.
Yeah, absolutely. So and so most of this information you're going to get off of your actual requisition.
So down here it says the new pay, what's that, STI comp, what's that, commission, percent, that's all on the rec?
No, this is what you would need to know. Anything about pay is what we would know. So if it's a retail position, you're going to always do this box here. We don't have, the only STI position that we have is the retail sales supervisor, and that is 5% of their pay. It's the same, so that never changes. The commission piece on this for different retail positions, retail consultants have an STI, or have a commission, sorry. Retail sales supervisor, hold on, sorry. Let me get my bearings together. The retail positions, the retail sales supervisor has commission, retail sales consultant have commission, store manager has commission. The retail ops specialist role is the only one that has an STI of 5%. I'm not sure if you guys have seen that yet. So, but most of this will come from the rec except for the pay information.
And is this where we're pulling it from, that Excel sheet April sent out?
That Excel sheet, yeah. And I haven't looked at that Excel spreadsheet. I'm assuming is that the peer-to-peer? Is that what she sent out?
I think that's it, yeah.
Yep, that's it. So I'll look at mine. Okay, so here's the Pac Northwest. And so this is my group. And that previous recruiter has already said that all retail sales supervisors are paid at 95 instead of unusual 90%. And he actually put the wages in for me.
Wait, so is that, how did you find that? That's by the group you said?
Yeah, so each one of your markets are going to be listed at the bottom. And did we get that question answered by Evian? Sorry. I am so bad at looking at the chat.
No, thank you. Yeah, trying to be clear on that.
Which form was it?
This one that you're
working
on.
The template that you just
the template? Oh, yes.
The
hiring manager does not complete that template. That is for the recruiter, or for us to complete with the salary details.
Okay. And is that only if they go over the suggested MRP?
That is actually for every salary. So even if they want to go over the amount, you're still going to use the same template and just adjust the salary accordingly.
Okay.
You're welcome.
And I think that form was different than mine. I only had 2 tabs on my Excel that I'm looking at. I had the geo zones by city and summary MRP by job code. Am I looking at the wrong one? Yeah, that's what I had.
I may have had that one. So is this the one you're looking at right here?
Yeah, am I supposed to be looking at a different one, or?
No, this is actually the right one. So the best way to do this really is to filter out by the jobs that you recruit for. So like for retail, I have a different spreadsheet that I use that's kind of easier on my eyes. We don't have leads anymore.
So we need to look it up by the job title or by the job code?
You can look it up by either. I have all of these memorized, most of them. This is not one. Well, you know what?
And then too, if we look it up by job code on the Excel sheet, if you hit Control F and just type in the job code, it will find it for you where it's at in the sheet.
It is not doing. Okay. I want to pull all of them. So here's all of my retail consultants, because there's SA061 for retail, SA061B for bilingual retail. You have D for mobile events, and then you have a K for kiosk. Depending on your market, more than likely you're not going to have a D or a K. You're just going to have SA061 and SA061B. So I'm going to go ahead and take those off really quick. Okay, so these are the ones that we normally work with. I believe it's the Florida market that has the mobile events and most of the kiosks. But this is, if you have a national standard market, your 90% is going to be 1030, unless they've updated it, and it is possible. Nope, it is still 1030. So hourly, and how you would figure that is you would divide that by 2080. So the hourly rate is 1030 for the national standard position. This 1144 is at 100%. And their STI is 14.5, where it used to be 17,696. So if you hear managers saying what happened to 17,696, these are, the TIC is estimate, because it is a commission. So it is an estimated commission. And these are all the different cities that you're using and their geo zones. And then, of course, if you have a premium market, it's going to be 1210 for the 90%. And I haven't worked in high premium in 2 years, so I honestly don't remember what their base hourly rate is, but their 90% is 26,591 for this position.
And that's the annual, so are you just dividing that
by 2080? Yeah.
2080?
2080? Mm-hmm.
And so then we're just, so where do we find the percentage?
The MRP percent?
Yeah, where are we finding that information at? Which one we should be looking at?
On column M.
So are we always referring to the 90%, or how do we know which one to refer
Depending
to?
on your market, more than likely everyone should be starting at 90%, but there are some markets who are slightly above that. So you have to look at your own personal market to kind of see and gauge where everyone is. Let me see if my cat tool is working. So the cat tool link is on the home page, of your brass ring. And it's loading. My cat tool is not working. So it's not something that I can even show you. But if I go back to April's email, and I go to what she has here. Actually, she said, oh yeah, so mine is not working, but there's a place in the cat tool. This is how it looks when you bring it up. There's a pre-screen prior to this where you actually have to enter the candidate's name, whether they're internal, external, the rec number, and the hiring manager's name prior to seeing this screen. Is there anyone on the call that already has access to cat tool?
I haven't tried using it yet. I don't know if anybody else has.
All right.
I don't see it on my homepage.
It's not on your homepage.
No.
What if you, in your browser, let's see if this works. Why am I over there? Yeah, so I just absolutely cannot access it, but it's located under the tools. But once you get access to it, you will be able to actually run a comp analysis for your candidate. You can change the geo zone in there. It gives you, if it's an internal, it's going to give you what their current job information. You're basically looking at their new comp tool information. Where you can see your peer market is that the cat tool will give you this screen.
Hey,
and
Tish.
Yeah.
Okay. Does it work in your Google Chrome?
Let's see.
And where do you find cat tools?
Cat tools, it should be on the home page of Brass Ring. The link is there, it's just that my link is not working. So I will have to send that over to her to let her know that I need access, but it should be under quick links. Under tools.
Oh yeah.
If you click on it, does yours work?
I clicked on it, but it says the site can't be reached. Reload.
So that's what mine says. So they need to get us access to the cat tool so that it can be used. But this is, what it looks like. this is the information that it gives you. If it's an internal candidate, you're going to have a comparison with the current position that they're in, as well as the new position that you're trying to run a salary for. In this section of the CAT tool, if it has a number here, this is the number of people within this geo zone, and this is like, it will show like what their current rate of pay is. So when you click on the actual number, it will bring up a list of everyone in that market to show where their pay ranges are, so that you can really gauge if you're needing to come in above that 90% point, based on, the communication between you and the hiring manager. You can kind of see where you need to be and where that percentage is going to fall.
Is this
So Tish, are we
tool
sending
what we
this?
send? Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask. That CAT tool there, do we save this as a PDF and send, or are we just copying information from it and put it in the
No,
template?
it's an actual tool in Brass Ring.
Uh-huh.
And when you calculate it from the CAT tool, it's going to email to your email, your Sprint email account. And it's going to have the salary on there.
So we have to use that and use that template as well?
I think it just really depends on the person. With the previous market that I had, we never steered above 90%. So mine were always the same. There wasn't a need for me to ever go into the CAT tool unless I needed to look at an internal offer, because that manager may have wanted to go above 90% and he wanted to compare his team.
So for now, we're
But
just sending these out, the template out to who? To the hiring manager for
to the hiring
approval?
manager, until the CAT tool is actually working for everyone. I think it just really depends on how you're using it and how easy it would be for you. Because when it's emailed to you, this is what the template looks like. This is how it comes back in an email format from Brass Ring, which is really good because it has a lot of the information on there. The only thing is that this bottom template here has changed somewhat, and I don't believe that has actually, the new template has been inserted into the CAT tool. So that's the piece that's going to be different, to where earlier when I was showing in the email that long template, that's actually what will need to be there.
And you said
So
this was
Tish,
different for internals? Sorry.
You can use it for internals. The CAT tool can be used for internal and external.
But for
But the
now, since we
format,
don't have, I don't think I can't access the CAT tool. What will we do for
right,
internal?
right. So it's not. So like right now, I don't have access to it either. So the template that April sent earlier would be the template to use interim until the CAT tool is working, or just used going forward. I don't know what her preference is going to be, so that's a question that we may need to pose to her and to the onboarding team, because ultimately these emails, whether it's from the CAT tool, whether it's from the template sent in the Word doc, it's going to be sent to the onboarding team to write the official onboarding letter, and they're going to need certain information from the templates in order to complete that offer letter. So the idea behind these templates is so that they can insert the information that they need to write those external offers for the candidates.
And once we get this back from the hiring manager, what's the next step?
So when you send this out, for example, if this was an external person and you send it out, this is just the conditional piece of it. The manager will present it to the candidate if they haven't already, but they will need to respond to you saying, my candidate has accepted, as well as they need to make sure they have that second or third level approval, depending on how your market is set up, that they need to have the approval in the email chain that it is okay to push that person to drug and background.
And if it's in an internal, since they don't drug and background, do they just go to the onboarding specialist to create the e-offer?
To get the e-offer, yeah. As long as the offer, if it's just the internal, and this, you can't see, sorry, this internal offer with the template or the other template once it's been approved by the appropriate hiring managers to move forward with the internal offer and they give you the effective date, then you'd be able to push that over to the onboarding special, or yeah, to do the offer letter.
I heard something about 2080. What, I kind of missed something. Divided by.
The 2080 is the divisor that you're going to use for the annual salary to come up with the actual base rate. So I'll go back to that email. On the compensation spreadsheet, that's not it. Here, there are salary ranges. These salaries are all annual. So in order to determine what the base rate is, you would divide those by 2080.
So if they're going by 90% here,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just not bilingual, it's just the top one, it would be 26,591 divided by 2080 for an hourly rate.
Correct.
And you would put this in the document for the hiring manager, 26,591.
Correct. Or let me switch it to a national standard market since that's the one I work with. If I'm looking at this market right here, or this 90% rate, I know that this base rate is $10.30 an hour.
Okay. And you give them both? Like,
I give them both, yes.
Okay.
This hourly here, this 1144, it's 100% to market. So it's the 23,804 divided by 2080 will give you 1144. So what this does is just
couldn't you do it divide it by like 52 weeks divided by 40 and you get the hourly too?
Yeah, you can. We just used the 2080. It was given to us by our compensation team at Sprint, so we just.
And that's the number of hours in a year.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That was throwing me off.
Yeah.
I had my calculator. I came up with that, and I'm like, okay, now what is?
Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean that's all that I can think of right now, but I mean, I'm sure you guys have other questions. I think for me, because I've done it for a while on the Sprint side, I really can't think of what other questions unless I'm actually within my email or within Brass Ring actually working on something is usually when I
That was a lot of
think of something.
information. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome.
Really great. That's what we really need.
Yeah.
Also, I have a question, Tish. If we have a rec that says pending, how do we move it out of that? Because I have a hiring manager that wants to hire right away, but it still says pending.
It says pending. Okay, let me go to my pending recs. And I don't believe I have access to all of this yet, but generally what happens is you receive an email, or whoever's opening recs will receive that notification from Brass Ring saying that you have a rec that's pending. I don't want to edit.
Well, it's already in the list. Yeah.
It's already in there. So what it's waiting on, actually, it's still waiting on me to approve. And because I don't have my Sprint email, I can't see that link. But if there is someone that has access to their Sprint emails, do you see an email out there from Brass Ring waiting for you to approve a rec?
Not for pending.
Not for pending. So
not
I
for this
w-
specific
What did
pending
April say
one.
to do with the pending? Didn't she say that we had to send them
Yeah, I thought
somewhere?
you said to reroute because I had like 6 pending and I rerouted them all per her email.
you
How do you
can route it, but
reroute?
who's it routing to? And the reason why I ask
All
was
west. For us, since we're on the west, it's the recruiter, the reviewing recruiter, and I forgot which the last
Was
up.
that
There's
the
three
Todd
places that
guy?
we have to change. No, that's not
No?
Todd. That would
Okay.
Todd is for canceling. For pending, we're supposed to reroute to all west.
So is that you on the left-hand side? It says route for approval
right.
for
But here's
rerouting.
Well,
the
we have to change. We have to edit it first. This
right.
is
You
what.
got to edit. I was going to say because it's sitting in recruiter review, and it's just going to keep going to the person who's listed there to approve it if something is not updated.
Okay.
Yeah, I think April just sent out that email showing us how to do it. Did you get it, Tracy?
Well, let's
I
take a
don't
look.
think so. I'll have to go back to
I
my
can look. I'll
emails.
forward it to you.
Okay.
So here's her email.
Okay.
So, okay, so I'm going to open up one of my pending recs.
Oh yeah, I got this. I just haven't read it yet.
And we'll just do one on a call. So it should have hiring manager. So they want you to change the, okay, so whoever's creating them, they're putting in their recruiter as they normally do. So it should have all east, all west. And there, and then recruiter review. Okay, so here's the recruiter. The recruiter review tab is here. Normally this is where you would approve. Before we were approving our own recs as recruiters. So since that has changed, you would enter in all west, and then the management requisitions, my assumption is those are all staying the same. I'm assuming we're staying on as the notification. I don't know who the notification, because this notification upon approval completion is routed to the individual who's actually going to open and post the rec.
It says on that over there on the email it should
Is
be
it on there?
all west.
All west.
It should be all west.
Yeah,
Oh,
see right at the
okay.
bottom, notify. Yeah,
Thank
put
you.
that in all west.
There it is. Oh, I did not even see that.
Now, the only thing that I noticed that we had to kind of keep in mind is if DMT or underutilization is not selected, we have to put something in there, otherwise it won't let us save.
Right. For the most likely it's going to be, I got to get back out of this.
Female.
It's going to be blank. Yeah, because, I mean, unless you're like in the New York market, you won't need a DMT on there.
And then I didn't ask April about it, but I noticed some of these where it says digital interview scheduling, they're putting no. I'm wondering if that should be yes, because they're new recs going through the new process.
They probably should be yes, but the hiring managers are more than likely not aware. So I'm going to hold off on doing my pending recs until we can get clarification on that.
Oops, I've already done all of mine and changed it.
Did you change yours to yes?
Yeah, because I figured they're new recs, new process, so if
Yeah.
I'm wrong, they can correct me, but they should be. I'm just thinking it's just force of habit. They're not used to doing it.
Yeah, they're not used to doing it. I mean, what's the worst that could happen, right? I don't know if this is an underutilization. This always has to be pre-filled.
The majority of them are female.
Depending on your market.
Mm-hmm.
I had a market in the East and they were all pretty much no. So, and I've never had this market, so I would need that. Yeah, before I do this, I would definitely want to see that list. I can try it on this one. What market? This is Yeah, I shouldn't have this. This is my old market, and I don't know who the new recruiter is, but this is definitely not me. So I will need to get with April to figure out who that is. She's not there.
So Tish, while you're working on that, just a question because I got an email from a manager and he has a
It's like
rec
you're messaging
where
Scott.
I am,
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you were messaging April.
No, I was messaging Scott because he's on the East team, and he would know who has Louisiana, and I could just send that over to them because I need to be removed. Those managers are probably still placing me on as recruiter. I shouldn't be listed as the recruiter anymore, and I don't think they're aware that I'm not there anymore. So I'm sorry, Jesse. I'm sorry. You had a
oh, it's
question.
okay. So I have a manager. He has a rec. He wants to hire one external, one internal. The internal looks good to go besides me having to do the salary calculation. The external doesn't have an FCRA.
So it needs to be sent to them to complete before they can go to drug and background. You could still do the comp analysis, but they cannot go to background until that's done.
Okay. And I just do that by going to the like candidate list and clicking on add form FCRA.
On for externals, you want to go. Hold on, let me go to interview. Complete really quick. You want to send their form. You want to click on the candidate's name, and you want to go to actions and send candidate communication. The forms are more for internal forms, for our internal forms, like to add the interview rating sheet, things that us or the hiring manager would need to add. And then on the communication template, you would do a pull down and you would select FCRA request to applicant. If you hit go, this is what the email will look like. And it'll be sent, it's pulling up my old email address, but it'll have your email address and it'll have the subject and then it'll have the reason why we're sending it and it'll have the FCRA link. And then it's telling me this has already been created, but you would select your candidate. I used to use Notify Me, and then I would hit send. When you hit the notify, Brass Ring sends you an email notification letting you know first that you've sent it, and as soon as the candidate has completed it, Brass Ring will send you a notification that it's completed.
All right. Now for this guy, I was doing it while you were talking. It looks like we've sent it twice, and I don't see it in the list, so that means he just hasn't done it, right?
He just hasn't done it, right?
Okay, so I'll let the
So,
manager know to
yep, you
get
can
on it.
resend it and then have the manager or inform the manager it's been sent. This is the third request. Has your candidate decided to move forward, what have you, or not move forward?
Okay, and then I think I had two managers that were they already did the salary, so it's okay for me to move them into extend verbal, even though they've already done it,
Yeah.
right? Okay, and then
Right.
for the ones that haven't, I keep them on select for hire until we have the salary talk, and then once we do that, then I can move to extend to queue them to have that talk with the candidate, right?
Yes. Correct.
Okay, awesome.
Is that it? Oh, I think we've put Tish through a lot.
No, you guys are good.
I don't know if you guys will ever wanted to set up another call if we have any other questions come up, if Tish would be open to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's
And I
probably all
think,
of us IMing you, asking you a million things now.
yeah, no, it's okay. I try to stay in with the chat, but sometimes I'm like, oh no, like I can't get to the questions fast enough. It's usually because I'm having one-off conversations with others, like in People Scout. So we're asking each other questions as well, trying to still get our access and so forth. So yeah, if I'm not responding in the chat, yeah, feel free to say, hey, there's a question in the chat. Can you help out? I don't mind. So. But yeah, like when we get our cat tool, yeah, we can, when everyone has access to that, if we need to go through that, yeah, I don't mind doing that. Setting up a call to go over that.
I have a question. I have a candidate. Sorry, I'm getting a cold, it looks like. But the candidate is showing as HR status with an NA. So will you get that if they apply to more than one requisition for some of them?
Let me see. Sorry, I am so hands-on. Do you have that rec number? That way I can actually visually see it.
He is 22329-8ER. Andrew Sorensen.
Audrey, is your microphone up high, or it just sounds like you're really far
You
away?
know what it is. I use a second monitor
Oh, okay.
because it's larger, so I'm facing that one, and I should be facing my laptop. Sorry about that.
Okay. So these are your two candidates, and
Well, look, there should be an Andrew Sorensen under select for hire.
yes,
He's,
so he's there.
no, he's showing as HR status in A, right? Is that what you're showing?
I'm seeing select for hire for him.
Well,
He's applied to multiple recs, but for this particular rec number, yeah, he's showing as select for hire. So
so
Billy
for the
Minor
ones that
has.
he should come off, that's what it'll do, or is that something that happens sometimes?
I'm sorry, I am not seeing the NA.
Okay, now go. How did I? On both of them, you had select for hire?
Just for him. The other person in that rec is listed as company not interested.
Did you try? Why is mine showing different?
Do you know how to share your screen?
Let me see. Give control.
Here, I will stop presenting. And then on the bottom of your Skype, there's one that looks like a video camera, and then one that looks like the telephone handset thing, and then a little square looks like a computer monitor. When you click that, it'll say present.
Okay, I think I got it. Unless you get that when you click on the red, which looks like a red exclamation point. Would that be the case?
Yes. Okay, so there's your...
Am I in here? No, I can't see what I'm doing here. I'm just looking at a blue. People are seeing.
Yeah, so what we're seeing is like
Are you
your
seeing
picture
mine?
and a blue screen. Okay, there's
Okay,
your...
let me get to
There
where.
you go.
Right here. What is that right there?
This right here, it's not, there's some relevancy there. But I'll be honest, I've never looked too much into depth in that box, since it's not something that I use to move candidates to and from. Does that
Oh,
make
okay.
sense?
So I'm trying.
Yeah.
So the
And then if you
red.
look at the last communication down there, it tells you select for hire right there.
Yeah, I
So,
think maybe I got there. Maybe I got there here. Let's see.
Possibly. What you're in, you went up to, yeah, your statuses.
Mm-hmm.
instead of in an actual requisition.
And
So
then,
I don't pull my candidates by the statuses and work off of the recs that way unless it's the past assessment or recruiter review. For everything else, when I'm working with my hiring managers, I work strictly within the rec. So I pull the rec into the search
mm-hmm.
and I pull up the actual requisition itself to keep myself organized.
Oh, okay, because I look for him. I found him through
Through
candidates.
select, yeah, through your candidate pull down menu.
So most of that information should be on the requisition as opposed to, because I do see it as select for hire right here. So.
Yeah.
All right, I think I got that straight. I think so, because some of the information you're going to see on the requisition as opposed to what you're going to see on the candidate tab.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I know you probably said this already, and I'm pretty sure I've forgotten because brain overload. But internal candidates, do they get marked select for hire also? Because I think that prompts the application, or does it not prompt for them if they're internal?
It doesn't prompt for them to complete an application, but the managers generally will place them in that status so that you know that they're ready to move forward. Some of them will leave internals in there as interview complete, but they should be moved to the select for hire status for tracking purposes.
Okay, I wanted to make sure because I was going to tell a manager that, but I just wanted to make sure I didn't send them an application again
Yeah.
and mess up.
Nope.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You guys, I elect Tish for team captain.
Yeah, seconded.
Yes.
Oh no. I appreciate that, but oh my
I don't
god,
think
I
you
will.
have to elect. We put her there.
Yeah.
We're gonna be IMing you, Tish.
Oh gosh, I will be relying on you guys when the new process rolls out because I didn't get to complete all of my training last week because I was still on the sprint side. So all of that I will be 100% lost, without a doubt.
Did Sprint have another RPO, or did you guys actually do all of this yourself?
We did all of it ourselves.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
All right,
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Anytime.
If we need to set up
Thank
another call,
you.
guys, let me know so we can utilize her all
Yeah.
at once. And I
Absolutely.
recorded the session so I can send it out to you guys.
Please do.
Oh, great.
Awesome.
Okay,
Thank you.
cool.
All
Thanks,
right.
Tish.
All right. You're welcome. Thank you guys.
Have a good one.
You.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.